welcome to an episode of How To in 12D. This episode will cover how to convert our 2D Streetlight and CAD blocks into 3D objects for 12D and Revizto. So let's get underway. First step that we need to do is to open up a number of files. The first one we want is XR2D proposed light pole locations to update. So just let that open up in CAD. Our next file that we will open up, and we will do this once Nick has informed us that the latest copy has been uploaded to Synergy. So let's assume that it has been done. This drawing we will only open as read-only. That is fine. It is checked out by Nick. That is not a problem. The final thing to open is the 12D project, which is called Streetlight and Signals Poles, and the location can be found under Zone Multi, and you can see the subfolder. So I already have this open. We will look at that shortly, but first we will deal with our CAD blocks. Okay, so our CAD drawings are open and ready to work on. So the first thing we want to do is with the source XREF, which is Nick IT's DWG. What we need from here are the Streetlight blocks, which are, without going into too much detail, they are dynamic blocks. So what he does with them is position them where he needs, rotate them, select from a drop-down menu a type, and when he is happy with what he has done, he informs us to run the process to feed them into Revizto. So what we do at this point is take the entire geographical area. You can see all the blocks have been highlighted within all zones there. And we just run the boost command. Boosting blocks can take several minutes, but it's generally a stable process. Next, we go into our, what I'd call a holding DWG. And we simply clear out the old layout. So you can see I'd covered all the zones. Pop back in, take all our burst items, and if you happen to grab any other polygons or polylines, that's fine. Paste to original coordinates. And we are good. So we'll save that. At this point, you might be wondering why we're copying over from one XREF to a DWG. So what we need to do is preserve Nick IT's source XREF. We're not there to modify it or alter it in any way. So this is a safer method of taking what he has and putting it into 12D. So anything we've done in the source XREF is in a read-only file, and his actual XREF that he works on will be unmodified. So with that file saved, our next step, we are now into the 12D project, lights and signal poles. So from here, it should be largely automated under a chain that has been written. Let's just open that chain up. Streetlights.chain. And you'll see there's quite a long list of basically saved commands that will take specific layers that have come from the CAD block visibilities and will translate them into the desired streetlight pole type and luminaire. So let's just run through that as it is. You'll see I've already turned on the CAD import layers that remain from the previous process, so I haven't cleaned them out. They're generally useful to keep for reference, and that is the current state in the 3D space of our streetlight models of the various types. So you've got new, you've got removed and red, and if you look close enough in other areas, you'll have modified existing poles and existing poles that will remain untouched. You'll also see some signals poles in there, but they are done in a separate process. I'll just move this panel out of the way and run it. Essentially, the first steps are that it cleans out all the relevant models, reads in the DWG that we have updated, and then it takes those CAD elements, drapes them to a supertin, and from there's the long list of BIM object applications mapped from the different visibility layers in CAD, and ideally that should be the entire process. Expected runtime is generally about 5, maybe 10 minutes, depending on how many background tasks there are and running in 12D. So it's looking to validate the supertin. That's probably the slowest of the steps. Generally just go yes, finish that panel. It's just it always asks you to save different line types. It never remembers what comes in from CAD. On my other screen, the Trimesh BIM object supply panels will be popping up as it runs through the list. This chain has gone through a few iterations early on. The panels are quite obviously quite useful for creating these objects, but you soon find out what the limitations are in terms of getting it onto a surface and also dividing it into the different design zones. So there has been a reasonable amount of time getting this process to run as smoothly as possible. And that is the chain complete. So that has gone quite smoothly. See all the lights are in their place, right levels, orientations, types. So that is a chain running smoothly. It's probably one point of failure on the chain that may pop up from time to time, and that comes about when you are draping the CAD lines to a surface. In this case, it's a super tin. So there's going to be occasions where the source tins are changed, as in deleted or renamed or anything like that. It will destabilize the super tin, and although the chain continues to run past the failure points, in essence, it won't work because the surface isn't complete. So you just have to make sure that if something doesn't look right, and you're not expected to look over the entire network, that's more Nick IT's responsibility in Revizto. But if something doesn't look right in terms of the levels, it's most likely due to the super tin, and you just need to check that there's no invalid surfaces on the list. You may need to add a new surface that has been created from the source project, but you should by now be aware of the way the Supertin order works. So just make sure that if you do add any surfaces, they are placed in the correct hierarchy. So assuming everything has gone well, your final step is to publish these to IFC. There's 4 different IFCs. There's the proposed streetlights, the existing to remain, the modified streetlights, and the streetlights to remove. So just to speed that process up, there's a chain that writes all 4, and you simply run that. Will open up one of them. So I've written the chain to reference the screen layout file, just because I'd written up the screen layout files first, and I thought I'd just keep one source of truth there. So if we say open up this, you'll see what the model list and destination is. So here's your nominated models here, all existing, and that goes directly to the BIM subfolder for the Revizto team to collect once they're notified. So all you have to do is just run it. It'll do all 4 to the same location, and once you fill in the register, or ideally Nick IT fills in the register just to inform the BIM team what has been updated, then your job is essentially done for this process. Before we close out in Synergy, we just want to have our IFCs checked in, and also once you're happy with what you've done in the CAD space, to check in the DWG as well. So if you already know how to do this, just select and check in, and job should be done. And on top of that, just notify hire that the IFCs are ready for her to take into Revizto. So hopefully that has been fairly straightforward to understand. If any error should arise that you can't solve, just let me know and I will look into it. Otherwise, thank you for watching.